Good afternoon. Good Friday. It's sunny. It's beautiful outside. I'm happy everybody joined us here today for a discussion I'm super excited about. Before I bring Cathy out, I want to give a little background, little introduction. So I've been lucky enough to know Cathy for quite some time. We've worked together as both a hiring manager and a candidate on both sides, which is unique for me to have this type of relationship with an individual. And this conversation today really came about based on a lot of things I was reading around the struggles in the labor market, about not being able to find talent and forcing organizations to think creatively in terms of how they attract and assess talent, and how hiring for potential is the way forward in terms of looking at how to assess talent that maybe hasn't done this role before, but has the potential to really excel in a position. And when I was reading all of these things, I immediately reached out to Cathy and was like, Cathy, you've been doing this before it was cool to be doing this. So we have to have a conversation to share your expertise in terms of how you've done this successfully in terms of in multiple parts in your career. So I'm super excited. I know you guys are going to get a lot out of this conversation. I hope you brought coffee because the energy is going to be off the hook. I want to introduce you to Cathy. Cathy, thank you so much for joining. This is
I am
so
so
much fun.
excited. Yes, thank you.
I should have kicked off. Sorry, I didn't let everybody know that Cathy currently is the VP of Network and Infrastructure at Laurentian, which is an exciting new mandate she'll touch on a little bit. But before we get into this conversation, I want to give you the opportunity, Cathy, to introduce yourself, talk about your background, your career, kind of what you're doing now, just to give folks an understanding of you and your background.
Of course. So I'm Cathy Bourgeois. I am originally from Peru, so that's why you will hear a little bit of an accent there. So I was born and raised in Peru. I am an industrial engineer. I started my career in manufacturing, and I think I've been in several industries, which is like a very interesting because I had so many different experiences. So I started in manufacturing, then I was in telecommunications, then I went to insurance, I did consulting as well. And 16 years ago, that seemed like yesterday, I decided to immigrate to Canada. And I thought the best way to get a job in Canada was moving here and studying here. So I moved here and I went to Western. I did my MBA at Ivy. And then I needed a job to stay in Canada. And at the time, Scotiabank was looking for people that spoke Spanish because they were really big in Latin America. So I got offered my first job in Canada, and I was with Scotiabank for 8 years. And until then, my career had always been in operations and business. And approximately 7 years ago, I got offered my first role in technology. And that's when I met Mike, actually, because at the time, a big bank, which I learned later that was RBC, was looking really for someone that understood the business, but can also understand technology and be the translator in between those worlds. So 7 years ago, I took my first role in technology. I worked in application development. 2 years later, I said I'm up for a new challenge. And I started working in infrastructure. So I was in total 6 years with RBC. And 6 months ago, the opportunity to join Laurentian in a role in infrastructure came across. And you know what? It checked all my boxes. All the things that I was looking for in my next challenge, in my next opportunity. So here I am, 6 months into the role, 6 months with Laurentian. Best decision, super happy, building a team, working on transformation. Yes, and super excited to talk to you about diversity and inclusion and recruiting and how everything comes together.
Thanks for that intro, Cathy. I mean, before we kick off, I mean, you kind of mentioned 6 months. You're super excited about Laurentian. What excites you the most so far about your experience with Laurentian and what you guys are doing?
What I would say is because we're a smaller bank, there's so many advantages on working in an organization like this. So fast-paced. I think when compared to big organizations, sometimes you have to, let's say, socialize ideas or go to approval of the approval of the approval to get things out the door. Because we're a small organization, those decisions are made really fast. And really we move at really fast speed. The second thing I think that is exciting about the role I'm in is um, I cover a lot of ground. So I'm an executive that is in charge of network, infrastructure, digital workplace, remote access. I'm in charge of many, many things, which allows me to really use my experience that I bring from working in other organizations, but really couple that with learning new things. So it's I think it's a good mix of experience plus learning.
That's great. Thanks for that. And I can't help myself with my recruiting hat on. If you have the opportunity and you're watching this to work with Cathy, you need to. So like if you see a role in Laurentian in network and infrastructure, apply and do it. It'll be the best
Yes,
decision you've ever made.
do.
Yeah, it'll be the best decision you've ever made. I know Cathy, I know the leadership team there. It is fantastic. And it is not what you think about in a traditional bank setting. Do it, please. Okay, recruiting hat now off. And to the side, we're going to talk about hiring for potential, because that's kind of how organizations are seeing a solution to this difficult labor market. And for those of you, just some context, right now we're seeing the labor market shift where demand far exceeds the supply of talent. So there's more people hiring than there are for people that can actually do the job traditionally. So Cathy, if you could walk me through and walk everybody that's listening to this in terms of, traditionally how organizations would recruit or assess talent, and how you do that when you're hiring for potential, just to set the stage for the conversation.
Of course. So definitely traditionally, we have looked into a very long job description, right? So you need, let's say in infrastructure, you need 30 years in infrastructure, having worked in financial services. So it's like you had to have all the experience to really be a good fit for the role. Because of, I guess, how the market is going, is so hard, is so challenging to get talent in technology, and specifically in infrastructure. It's a very niche market. It is a challenge. If you go to your 30 years of experience in infrastructure, you will find a very small pool of people and pool of candidates. So how I am approaching really recruiting is very, very key things that I want. Maybe a few years of experience in infrastructure, but really is focusing on what are those skills that you need to be successful in the long term. So let's say resiliency, right? Keep trying, don't give up. So what are some experiences that you may have had in your personal or work life that can show me that you have resiliency? And maybe it's easier for me because let's say I am an immigrant. I moved here 16 years ago. So if someone moved to another country, started from scratch, that shows me that that person is resilient. That person can take a risk, that person can overcome challenges. So I think we have to look into what skills can the person show, not only also in their career, but also in their personal life. So to give you perhaps another example is perhaps someone is volunteering. So there's a person that goes the extra mile and they just don't stay in their box at work, that they want to do more than what is required. So I think those are the things that I have been looking into, more focus on skills and trying to find potential so I can grow the pool of people and the pool of candidates that could be a good fit for the jobs I have posted.
I love that. I think, and we've had conversations before where traditionally when there isn't this, imbalance of supply and demand in the labor market, you can be a little bit more, I don't want to say picky, but you can be a little bit more narrow in your focus. If you're looking for somebody, in an infrastructure network role at a bank, you look for people that have done infrastructure network at a different bank, right? Because you assume a lot of things. Now, because of the market we're in, it's forced organizations to do this but you've already been doing this for a long time, looking at what you define as the skills that will set someone up for success in the long term in the role, instead of just so narrowly focused in terms of what can shorten the learning curve of somebody coming on board.
Yes,
Did I say that
absolutely.
correct? Yeah.
That's right. And I think you have to look into how your organization looks and wants to look in the future. So I'm thinking in Laurentian, we're going through this big transformation. We need people that can work in a very flexible and fast-paced environment. So if I'm going to look into maybe someone that has experience in infrastructure in a big financial services institution, they may not, be able to adapt to this really fast-paced environment, right? That you have to do maybe three different roles that you would do in the big corporation. So right now, let's say I'm looking at companies my size. It doesn't have to be financial services. It can be insurance or it can be other type of companies. But look at how your team is today, what gaps you have, but look also what you need in the future. So fast-paced, resiliency, communication, those are all the things that I'm looking into.
I really like how you said having a longer time horizon for how you're looking at your team instead of just satisfying, the gap that's right in front of you, thinking more longer term. And that's a tough thing to do because there's a lot of pressure for leaders to perform now instead of thinking about investing in talent over the long term to go. But in your opinion, why is hiring for potential important for us to be thinking about as we build out our teams?
Yes, and I think maybe I can talk about my personal experience, right? And I think maybe that makes it easier for me to be flexible. In my last three roles, my last three jobs I got, someone took a chance on me. Someone said, "Hey, you have never worked in technology, but you look like a very smart lady. And like I see you have potential to learn. You may not know everything about technology, but you have some business knowledge and operations knowledge that will be beneficial in the long term." So I would say because of that experience, I think that shifted my way of looking at things, looking at maybe I don't need to check all the boxes when I'm applying to a role. So I think my message to some candidates or people that are looking for a job is like, you do not need to check all the boxes. Very rarely we find someone that checks all the boxes. And I think it is, do you have transferable skills? Can you learn? And I think those things in the long term are much more important than having a very like a 30 year of experience on like one topic.
On that, and I think it's important when you talk about checking all the boxes and there being a long list of skills and experience on traditional job descriptions. What's your approach to simplifying that to make sure that you're kind of making it more accessible and less intimidating for a wider pool instead of kind of having 20 different skills and experiences? What's your approach there to really kind of help simplify that process?
Yeah, I would say short and sweet. That's what I did. Like, so when I started recruiting at Laurentian, I used to review like the job postings, like 2 pages long. I'm like, no, like I can't read. I like have attention deficit disorder. I can't read 2 pages, and people read it on their phones, right? It's like, are they really going to go through all this list? And sometimes it's discouraging if you have so many requisites for a role. So definitely short and sweet, very little things. And what I would say is kind of like what we're doing today is use your network, show the type of leader you are, the type of team you are creating, the type of environment you are creating, and let that speak for itself as well, right? So it's like if you're saying, "Hey, I want a diverse team," you probably will attract more diverse candidates. If you say, "Hey, I'm going to hire for potential," probably people will be more interested in applying to a role that works for you.
Yeah, I like that in terms of really personalizing or humanizing that job description. And I think you do a fantastic job of doing that and really simplifying it. And we've had conversations because as what we know is, when candidates are looking at a list of skills and experiences, and when we factor in diversity, and I'll just talk about gender diversity, is men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the criteria listed, where women won't apply for that job unless they have at least 90% of those skills and experiences. So the more exhaustive that list is, you're limiting the ability to attract diverse talent in that regard. So how does hiring for potential help you from a diversity angle, and why is diversity important? What does it mean to you? I know I just asked you like a 4-part question and loaded there, but I got excited and carried away.
No
So
worries.
take it as you see fit.
Listen, diversity is so important. Diversity of thought. Imagine if I would hire people that looked like me, that talked like me, and that thought like me. Like I think that's just the opposite of what we try to achieve, right? So like when I look at hiring someone, I'm hiring someone that complements me, someone that perhaps like doesn't talk as much as I do, and maybe someone does not have the infrastructure experience that I do, but has a networking experience. I've been in big companies. Maybe I need someone that really has worked in a small company. So really, someone that complements your skills and experience. I think that's very important for to get like more, I guess, better results. Right at the end, the diversity on thought and experiences give more benefits to the companies and the teams. Now, I think what is very key when you are hiring for potential and you try to be diverse is you have to give people a chance. And I always go back to I got when 16 years ago, I got my first job in Canada. So I'm going to tell you like one little story. I was hiring like 6 people, let's say my infrastructure team, right? And I asked someone in my team to do the first round interviews, and they brought forward let's say one candidate, and they said yes, this person is good, but they don't have any Canadian experience. And I thought, what if that person 16 years ago thought the same of me? Oh, Kathy's great, really smart, but she doesn't have any Canadian experience. So I think I'm in a privileged position where I can say, well, that they have experience in their home country, it's really valuable. That they don't have a Canadian experience, well, that can be fixed. We'll give them their first job in Canada. So I think it makes it easier for me because I've been there to say, hey, that's not a disadvantage. That could actually be better for us because they bring an experience from, let's say, Dubai or India. They will bring more experience because technology in Dubai and India is the same as technology in Canada. So those are the things I think that have helped me really take advantage of a diverse pool of talent.
Yeah, I love that. And on the flip side, and Mariella made a great comment here about, that it's an excellent tip, not only for people looking to recruit, but also those for applying for jobs. What would you say to those, maybe that are new to Canada and they're looking for jobs and maybe they feel overwhelmed or intimidated by all the skills and experiences and feel that they're going to face the same thing? How did you handle that coming here, and what tips would you give to people that are coming here and looking to land their first job in Canada?
So I would say go for it. Go for it, apply, even if you don't have 100% of what they're asking for. Like if you don't ask, you don't get. So I think that would be, I guess, my first advice. Second, I think highlight those transferable skills. What are the things that, I don't know, maybe you had in another country that they're exactly the skills that you need for this job in Canada? Because there are so many, communication, flexibility, taking risk, resiliency, working in cross function teams. That's something that here in other countries, it is the same. So I would say highlight those and see how they can be applied for the job you want.
And I think, to switch the conversation to candidates, because I like where this is going, is, because they're in such demand right now, right, in terms of there being more demand than there is kind of supply in the labor market, rather than being a candidate that's just looking at chasing dollars and looking at, kind of how you can leverage what you've done to do again and just make the most, it's also an opportunity for you to do something different, because the organizations are willing to take a chance on someone that maybe doesn't have the experience, but to your point, can tell a story about those transferable skills. But it also requires some self-awareness to know what it is that you do and how you apply that skills. Have you thought about, guidance or things you've done for individuals to do that self-assessment, to know what they have and how it can apply to another job?
Yes, it's like, again, it's a lot of self-awareness, right? Asking yourself these questions. And I think I'm going through the same exercise with all my direct reports, like really understanding them as a person, not them just as a worker, right? So them as a person. What are their career aspirations? What are they good at? And what do they have to improve on? Very like three simple questions that you have to do some self-reflection and really understand them, and then being able to share with your manager. Because I think there's it's a bi-directional relationship here, right? It's like maybe you have some ambition to do something in the future, but also I think your boss as a coach or as a leader has some also some responsibility to support you and help you in your career development.
And also it's such a unique opportunity to try some stuff. I mean, when you think about the longevity of your career, I mean, look at even you in terms of where you are now, you probably took some chances on some roles and some experiences that maybe on paper didn't make sense, but you thought like, let's try this and see what this is,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. It's like, of course, you will deal with imposter syndrome, like probably every day, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm the VP of network infrastructure. Well, like, by any means, I am the super subject matter expert on everything. But you know what? That's why you hire people that have that experience and skills, the knowledge that really complements you. So like of course you're nervous when you start a new opportunity, when you start a challenge. Everyone is, and who says it doesn't is lying. There'll always be things that you're nervous about, that you have to learn. But you know what, you have to think you are there for a reason. Someone invited you to that call or that meeting because they value your opinion. So think about that when you go into a call in a meeting. Speak up, because you're invited because someone thinks you're very special and you can bring a lot to the table.
That's amazing. I love that. And then on closing, because I know we're running close on time here, any tips that you have for hiring managers when they're looking at assessing what you kind of mentioned resiliency and kind of some of the skills that you're looking for your team? Is there any tips you have for those leaders that don't know what skills that would make their team better, like how they would go through that exercise to figure that out?
So I would say definitely, like I talked about resiliency, flexibility, communication, being able to change, I guess. But I think you have to assess your team, see what are the skills that you have, and maybe look for those skills that can complement your team. Another thing that I would say that I'm very happy to have at Laurentian is we are a remote first company. And that really helps us in the war for talent, right? So I think I have been in these 6 months, I've been to the office twice, and because I wanted to, not because I had to. And so I think as a hiring manager or as a company, you have to think about those things that are not necessarily compensation, but are these plus that really will help you attract the right talent. So right now, my positions are anywhere in Canada. I don't care if you're in Regina and you're like in Montreal, Toronto. I think you can do your job wherever you are. And so I would say that's like a plus the culture of the organization in Laurentian. That is really, we want everyone that feel they can bring their whole self to work. They can be themselves. They can be able to speak up, and really, so really, like I think the culture of the organization is like top of the list on being able to attract new talent.
And as we close here, a couple things. Are you actively hiring? Where can candidates apply for jobs, and where can they find you online?
Yes, of course. You can find me on LinkedIn as I think Cathy Bourgeois Diaz. I am hiring. I think I have a few open positions in my team. But if I look at the broader IT team in Laurentian, we are hiring like in architecture, security, application development, like everywhere. And we have a great culture, great leaders on leaders in the organization. So please look at the postings we have. And again, we're looking for diverse talent. Not necessarily you check all the boxes. There's a lot of opportunities for you.
That's great. Cathy, thank you so much. I see a collaboration coming in the future, fingers crossed, where we can do this live for some roles. But and I can't say this enough. If you have the opportunity to work for Cathy, do it. It will be an experience that will change your life professionally, personally, and you will learn a lot. You will do a lot. I mean, I certainly have, and I've just been recruiting for her on the side. So if you get a chance, do that. Cathy, thank you so much. I think this was an extremely valuable and timely conversation. And yeah, have a great Friday.
Thank you.